Hi everyone, this is Lean and welcome back to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. Today I'm creating a baby card where I am mostly using this Oh Baby stamp set from Crafty Meraki. Now this card is all about using those tiny stamps in your stamp set, and this stamp set has a lot of those. Now I selected these four and I'm going to stamp them out onto this panel. Now this panel measures an A2 size panel. Another thing to know was that I was contemplating the ink that I was going to use. I ended up using a gray ink instead of a black ink. This one is the River Rock from Fawn, and I'm just going to randomly stamp these adorable little stamps out on top of this panel. Now you just saw me taking a piece of acetate that I trimmed down to fit into my MISTI, and I always keep it behind my mat that is inside the MISTI, just so that I can easily find it when I need it. And this way I actually can avoid having to clean off my stamps every time that I'm going to reposition it. Also, when you clean off your stamp, sometimes you have still a residue on there and you ruin the panel you're stamping on. So avoiding that by each time before repositioning everything using that acetate. Now, the purpose of repositioning everything was also to not have the same stamp next to each other. Well, it's an idea, sometimes that doesn't work out, but you know what I mean. I skipped a bit of the stamping because it's always the same, it's quite repetitive and a bit of puzzling to get everything on there. But once that was done, I decided on coloring everything. Now, last month I made a baby card with pinks, so I decided to use blues this time. So I have one combination of blues that I'm going to use all over this panel to have everything matching with each other. And depending on the image, I'm using all of the combinations, and on others I only need a few of my markers to get that coloring done. So I'm coloring this panel all together. I'm not doing it one image by one image because, well, this color is repetitive. So I will show you a part of the coloring, but not everything, because that would just bore you. I'm going from darkest to lightest, working my way through my background. Now, of course, we have the blues, and then we have also some other combinations as yellows that we will be using for the rest of the images. Now, I must admit, in the beginning when I start coloring, I don't really know where I'm going. So my coloring evolves while I am busy coloring everything in. So I went back and forth between some of the images because I didn't figure everything out yet. And then afterwards I did, so I had to return to some others. But that's how I work. So I try to make it as logical as possible and not do too much at once. But sometimes the nature of the beast is a bit, well. So again, using the same blues as I did before, you can of course switch it up. If you want a gender neutral, then you don't need to use blues or pinks. But I personally really like using those two colors when I'm making baby cards. And of course, I sometimes use greens and yellows, but if I watch back on all the baby cards I made, well, I'm using a lot of the typical colors, although blue is not only for boys and pink is not only for girls, but you know, you can also make a rainbow baby card. I think that would be lovely as well, because you never know. But there are many options. So you can recreate this card in so many ways. You can use only one image, or you can use two, less or more if you want to. You can use other combinations. You can try to minimize the amount of background stamping, but I really went for it this time. Also, a tip that I can give you is when you want to create a background like this, that it's always handy if you also stamp a few of these items on the edges of your panel. This way it looks like this panel is only part of a bigger, larger panel or image, and that's something that I really like. So here I decided on the yellows that I was going to use. So slowly building up these colors. These images are really precious. They have some really tiny parts that might sometimes be difficult for coloring in with Copic markers, but just take your time. If you prefer other mediums, then you use those other mediums, of course. But I noticed that I had to slow down a bit to color these images in without going too much outside of the lines, because they are so precious and detailed. But once you get going, you know how wide some of the lines are, and it will work out just fine. Also, the paper that I stamped on is perfect coloring paper from Transotype, which is a really Copic friendly or just alcohol marker friendly paper. But personally, I prefer my coloring if I have at least 2 layers, sometimes even more. And that's perfectly fine because this paper won't start bleeding like you have with some other papers. So if you have trouble with bleeding because the paper is oversaturated, then I can definitely recommend this paper because that helped me out a lot. So I'm continuing with all of the other images, and as you see, I really found it easy to do all the same images all at once, because then you have a hang of the size of the image. So that really helped me. It was way handier than doing all of the images on the upper left as I started on. And that's how I did this background, really slowly building up, first stamping everything out, and then taking my time to color everything in, trying to enjoy it as much as possible, because this can be really relaxing if you take your time. And once that was done, I could continue on the sentiment. The hardest image personally were these socks or shoes. I think for me these are socks, but you can call it whatever you want, because of the bow. The bow is so darling and it's so precious, but of course it's really tiny as well. So I had to figure that out. I was postponing a bit. As you can see, I only colored one, and in the end I think I even changed that one up a bit after coloring another one. So it was really sometimes, well, I'm postponing things I don't like, or if I have a lot of the same things to do. I don't like repetitive things, except for backgrounds like this, because I think it's so much fun to see it come alive. Also, using the gray ink really makes these backgrounds really soft. If you use black, that can work as well, depending on maybe the sentiment that you want to use, or how you are going to add your sentiment. But I just think that with the gray like this, it can really be soaked into the background and still being there. So here I am adding some more shadows onto those socks. And once I was happy with that, I knew how I was going to color all the rest. So that was handy. But as you see, it's all evolving while I am coloring. That's just how I work. I am not a planner when I'm making cards. Just a basic idea, and then it needs to grow while I am crafting. I like it like that, but I must admit, sometimes when I'm stuck on the colors that I need to use, I am so jealous of planners underneath you. Like, I have a crafty friend who plans her cards, and they are always stunning. And I think sometimes if I would plan, then I wouldn't be stuck at a certain point. But this card was quite clear. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to have a background filled with these images. So I just went for it and had a lot of fun. Also, recreating this card in pink is on my to-do list, because, well, I need more baby cards. If there is one thing that we can be happy about with the COVID situation, is that a lot of couples started on babies, and there are a lot of babies on their way, well, with people I know. So that will be funny. I need a lot of baby cards. That's a fact. So once you have a lovely card to make or how you can tackle it, then it's really handy if you just multiply the card and yeah, just have fun. So the background being done, I'm going to take the Baby Shadow Word Meraki Paradise, these dies, and there are plenty of these dies at Crafty Meraki. These dies are amazing. Truly, every time they come out with a new word, I'm so happy because the script is lovely. You have the word, then a shadow, and then another shadow. So you have so many options in one die. You can use two shadows together, you can use the word separately, you can use the word and a shadow, you can use all three together, which I'm doing today. So many options, one die. Love it. So here I took the same blues as I used before. I cut out the baby. I'm going to use this word. Well, first of all, I contemplated. I tested everything. I even cut out the baby with a colored cardstock. And then I ended up using the baby in blue, then the the first shadow in white, and then ending up with the bigger shadow in vellum. And that became my end result on the card. But as you can see, so many ways of using this, and I just love that about this die. So here I have all the pieces, and then I am going to assemble first the sentiment. Now the lovely thing about this is if you use for the bigger shadow some vellum, there is plenty of space to put your adhesive behind, and I love that. I'm also going to use this tiny white baby just to lift up the blue one to have several sort of dimensions. And I'm using some liquid glue to do that. So first I'm adding that blue onto the white. And then it's like a big puzzle. And I love that. Going to use another white baby. Adding the blue again on top. So there are 3 layers. And I'm also making sure to keep the inside pieces of the baby for the second shadow. So that's always handy if you keep it. If you want to use the second shadow, I think it's lovely if you also have the inserts. You don't need to, but you can. So now I'm first going to add that first shadow on top of the vellum. That's easy to sort of get in place, get centered. And then I will just inlay all of the other pieces. And once that's done, I'm going to finish off this card. There are again many ways to finish it off, so depending on what you prefer. And that's something I really like, because there are many ways to embellish a card. You can use glossy accent stickers, you can use embellishments on top of everything, and I love it all. But from time to time, when you start making a card and you make your decision on the embellishment, you see all the other options as well. So recreating this card with just other embellishments or way of finishing this card gives you again so many more possibilities. For this card, I decided after adding this panel on top of a card base to use glossy accents. Glossy accents all the way, not only on the hearts of the, I don't know how you call it in English, but we call it bavette. It's when the baby is eating to catch the food that is falling. So I'm going to add glossy accents to all of the hearts, but I'm also going to add glossy accents on top of the blue baby. And I really love that. I contemplated about it, but having the glossy accents return on the heart as well as on the baby, I just thought it was a really lovely and cute accent. And once that is on there, this card is completely finished. I know that there was a lot of coloring, but I really wanted to show you how I did the socks as well, and it took me a while to figure it out. So sorry for the repetitive coloring. I think it was already clear after a few images, of course, but well, I want to thank you all for stopping by and taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and of course I hope that you love the end result. If you did, you can always give this video a thumbs up. I would truly appreciate it. Thank you so much again for watching this video. I hope you have an amazing day left, and I will be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!